Hey everyone, a while ago I made this self-propelled howitzer in 35th scale. If you haven't seen this yet, you can find it up there or in the description of this video. I posted a vote poll in my channel to get your opinion for a diorama scene for this. Voting resulted in a draw. I waited a fair amount of time for more votes, and in order to be fair, I didn't cast a vote. To continue with this project in a fair way, I'll roll the dice. Odd numbers will be for snowy landscape, and even numbers will be for maintenance pay option. Well, snowy landscape won. So I start with the base. For this I used a leftover plywood board and cut it 35 by 35 centimeters. To go over the plywood board, I cut a section of insulation foam of the same size and glued the two pieces together. Once they dried, I started working on the overall layout of the diorama. Where the vehicle will stand, the direction it's going to be firing to, where the rock face will be, and so on. Next, I started to disrupt the surface, cut sections and make it as uneven as possible. With the help of 1 cm thick styrofoam, I start working on making the mountainside. With that out of the way, I use aluminum foil to make the actual rock faces from wall plaster. I realized I didn't have as much plaster as I thought I had, so I ended up with fewer amounts of resulted product. Let them dry overnight and then got them out of their foil molds. And then randomly glued them with hot glue gun on the mountainside of the diorama. Once the base is ready for painting, I started with applying black craft paint to make sure I covered the entire surface. This time, I wanted the rocks to look a bit different than regular grey stone color, and decided to apply a heavily watered down brown. Then kept adding bits of grey into the main paint mix and worked my way up from darker to lighter colors. End result gave me what I was hoping to get, a bit of a reddish or brownish tint on the overall look of the rock surface. Finally, dry brushed them with white. With the paint job done, I started working on the surface itself. I applied my regular ground flock. At this point, I imagined this needs a bit of a dried vegetation, so I taped a bunch of ropes together and then cut them in various heights. Trimmed them up to make them look more organic. I also found this driftwood in my tree bin, painted it in watered down black and added it on the diorama base. While waiting for them to dry, I started working on the 4 trees I planned for this build. As usual, I used chopstick for the trunk part and armature wire for the branches. For the top side of the trees, I'm mixing a dark green color to be applied on some polyester pieces. Unlike cotton balls, polyester doesn't really soak up the paint and can be stretched as wide as you want without getting torn apart. Once the painted polyester dried, I cut them in smaller sections. Added them on the trees using regular glue. For the next step, I applied hairspray on the polyester part and dipped them into the flock bucket. Final step for the trees is to make the snow effect on them. For this, I make a mixture with white paint, glue, water, and baking soda. I can't really tell you the amount of each item in this. You should probably go for a slushy-like consistency. People would say baking soda would yellow over time, but I think as long as the soda is covered with paint and glue, the amount of water used kept fewer, and the end result kept away from direct sunlight, this would be just fine. We'll see if it will get yellowed in a couple of months. I finally add some snow flock I had laying around to add extra texture to the snow. You can clearly see the difference here. Before I go any further with the terrain work, I turned back on to working for the explosion effect. This is the first time I'm trying it, and I wanted to try cotton and polyester at the same time. Give a rough shape to the both materials and then glue them on toothpicks. CA glue is kinda dangerous when dripped on cotton. People start fires with that stuff, so be careful if you try this. Once I get the rough shapes I want, I mix a light orange paint with transparent glue in it. Transparent glue is marked with D3 for some reason. I don't know what it is, make sure to use that one. Glue's role here is to keep the cotton or polyester in shape when dried. From lighter colors to the darker colors, I rub the material gently, giving each painted layer an hour or so to dry. Normally, spray painting these or using an airbrush would give you far better results, but I don't like working with spray paints and it don't have an airbrush. So, desperate times call for desperate measures, I suppose. Once the explosions dried completely, I decided that the polyester resulted a much more realistic look compared to the cotton. Gave them their final shapes and started to glue each one on the nozzle of the gun. To be completely honest with you, I wasn't expecting a result this good, and I'm sure there is more room for improving this. Now back to the diorama base. I made more snow, this time to cover the entire surface. I used about half a kilogram of baking soda for this. Now thinking about it, I probably never used this much baking soda for baking in my entire life. Before it dried, I made sure there are track marks on it. Before my snow batch dried, I quickly started working on the snow details on the howitzer itself. I researched enough for how snow would accumulate on military vehicles in the field before I did this. I got more confused at the end and decided to go randomly with a little bit of a logic, where there would be sprinkles and accumulated chunks of snow. I also used white weathering powder to get a bit of a whiter tone to the vehicle, especially to the side skirts, and intentionally kept the rear part of it snow free since the engine would be in the back and with the heat that area would be dry. So I bought this 1/32 scale Airfix WW2 British Infantry figure set, like forever years ago. Its mold is a very high quality one, heads with various face expressions and even 4 different helmet options. Sadly, the helmets are a bit of off the scale and I can't use them. I chose 2 different poses for the figures, one running, carrying what I imagined to be anti-tank ammunition, the other in a posture, waiting for the ammo to be handed over. I imagined these 2 guys defending partisans, or maybe belong to a team of paramilitary unit defending their land. Flanking the howitzer, exploiting its field of view for a rear attack, I don't know. I made a somewhat anti-tank weapon from the bits from this kit, maybe like a recoilless rifle or something. For people who don't know the military jargon, it's just bazooka really. I painted enough number of figures in this channel to talk about what color I paint which part and why. Instead, with this one I'll talk about why I painted these figures with watered down paints. Just like filtering, I watered down the lightest of the colors I want each part to look, then work my way up with darker tones of that color. This way, the latest layer of paint applied will be the darkest tone, and since it's diluted heavily, it will settle down to all the crevices. Basically, almost like painting with washes. I find their final results look so subtle and organic. Well, I'm not a great figure painter by any means, but I started painting figures this way as of recently and enjoying it quite a bit, so I wanted to share my experience. Finally, with the help of white weathering powder, I imitate snow on their boots and done with the figures. Once everything is dried and ready, it's time to bring this diorama to life. Since I plan to build a plexiglass display case for this later on, I built 2 of these trees in half. Built a frame covering the bottom of the base. Made sure the Howitzer's firing position doesn't block the display case in the future before I glue it in its firing position. Added track marks with more snow, slushy and Vallejo splash mod effects. With the last figure placed on the base, I'm done. Thank you for watching this episode. If you like this, make sure to like and subscribe for future videos, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to hear updates from me. And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.